of our family members who've been rocking with us, welcome. Good to see you. And for our newcomers, welcome to the family. All right, y'all. So today we have a good show. It's something that a lot of us deal with. You know, something that we can't get over. Well, it may be hard for us to get over. Something that's going to happen in life. So we're going to be talking about grief today. But I'm going to help you find ways to manage grief. Grief is something that we're all going to experience. But when you learn to manage it, it makes the process more smooth. So today, our topic is called Uncorked Session 20, Managing Grief. So before we get started, you know we got to do the wine up today. Our wine, and it was sponsored by Marissa and Malcolm Trail. Thank you so much, my people. This is called Jam Jar, and this is a sweet wine. It's a 2021. And we're going to go ahead and do our taste test. Y'all know how we do. So we'll first get our glass. Remember, we're going to hold it by the stem. You know why, right? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to see it. So this is a red wine. And while you're seeing it, you can also swirl so that you can open up the aroma. And it looks very purple, okay, guys? So I already know there's some berries in here. Like, I can smell it. It's very sweet. And you know I'm a red wine girl, but not too much sweet. You know, I'm that dry wine lover. But I've been kind of opening up to a lot of stuff lately, so that's a good thing. All right, now that we've seen this and we have swirled our wine to open it up, now it's time to sip. Oh, no, we're going to smell. No, I missed it, y'all. We're going to smell. Let's smell. All right, what do you smell in yours? Take time to think about that. So I smell berries for sure. But it's not just like a certain one. Maybe they have like blue and raspberry together. It smells good, though. Real sweet. I smell a little oak, not much, but it smells very, very sweet. All right, so now that you smelled it, now we're going to go ahead and sip. When you sip, make sure you swish it in your mouth so that you can get that taste. This is really good, actually. It tastes like communion juice. Okay, that was... But it's good. It's just sweet, y'all. But it tastes like, baby, communion. First Sunday, hear me. All right, let's talk about it, y'all. So we're talking about grief. And grief can come up in different ways. A lot of times we think about grief when we have a death of a loved one. But you can experience grief with a lot of different things that you lose. Someone losing a job that you worked hard for, that you thought that it was going to be your career forever. You might have worked there 20 plus years and you end up losing your job. Could have been a layoff. It could have been that you got fired or you just had to abruptly leave. A lot of times we grieve those jobs. Why? Because we've been there so long. We have memories there. We have people there that we work with that we love. So at times, grief can really pop up on us in that situation. Another situation could be losing a pet. And a lot of people are very close to their pets. I'm close to mine. I have Madison. I've had Madison since 2015. And she is an old dog. So, you know, dogs only have, you know, a limited time here with us. So if she was to die today, that would really hurt me. And I would go through the stages of grief. Because I've had her. I've built memories with her. I've learned to love her. She loved me. That was my emotional support dog for 2 tragedies in my life. So I'm going to miss Madison, right? Another situation could be a miscarriage. Sad, right? A lot of women miscarry, and it's something that's common, and it does bring about, you know, grief stages, and we'll go through that in a second. But miscarrying is also one that you tend to feel the stages of grief. Moving to a new city, leaving a home that you've been in for so many years. A lot of kids go through grief, and parents, we don't think about it because we feel like we're the adult, we the one that got to do the, you know, work the job, pay the bills. We have to make these decisions. But we don't tend to think about how they could affect our children who have to move from a school that they've been at for so many years. And they made so many connections and friends. They're now moving on to something unfamiliar. That can bring about the stages of grief as well. Divorce. No matter how long or short the marriage could be, divorce is something that brings about grief because we're leaving something that's familiar. We're leaving somebody that we once loved a lot. We have memories with, that we may have attachment to. And especially if you have children, that's very hard, not only on you, but for the child as well. So these are just some examples that can cause us grief. Now with grief, you have different stages. There are 5 stages of grief. And we have denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And I'm going to go through the stages so that you can become a little familiar with it. So denial, this is when we lose. So let's, for an example, I lose someone close to me and I'm so shocked, I'm in denial about it, like this can't be real. I have had instances with clients where it's they lose someone, but they still tend to act like they're still there. They're in denial. They have not even gotten to the other stages of grief, but they're in denial that this is not real. This is not happening to me. This is not my life. Most times people going through divorce, this can't be real. Like this, me, divorce? Like I thought we were good. Especially if it comes to you by surprise. You're going to go through denial. Another stage is anger, and this is when we get past the denial. We say, okay, this happened, but I'm angry about it. I'm so mad. This is when some of those negative behaviors and emotions start to arise that people like, that's not usually you, but they're dealing with grief, and everybody deals with it different. So when you become angry, you're angry about the situation, you become angry with the person. A lot of us tend to build resentment when we go through sometimes the anger stage of grief. The next stage is bargaining. I do whatever it takes for them to come back. And that's when a lot of times who people are spiritual, we say, God, if you bring them back, I'll change my life. If this happened, I'll do this and I'll do that. We want to bargain to bring them back, find any way that we can to do that. And then another stage is depression. And that's what you feel like you tend to see the most. Depression is, the sadness, the dark room. It's being in a box, not knowing how to come out of it. Just feeling low, feeling very sad, very emotional, not knowing if you're going to ever pass that stage. And I've had a client recently tell me that they felt like their depression stage was the longest stage of all when it came to them losing their relationship. And I understood, I felt that because I've been through it. I understand what that feels like. And they feel like we'll never get over the sadness. Every day I wake up, I cry. Every day I wake up and I think about them, or I'm triggered. And we'll get to the triggers in a second. But those are some of the things that, people deal when they're in the depression stage. And the last stage is acceptance. It's when we finally say, okay, they're gone. They're gone. They won't be coming back. Or I finally, understood that I'm never going to go back to that job. Or I am getting a divorce. I did miscarry my child. We finally got to the stage where it happened. I have to accept that this happened. Not that I got to love it, like it, but I do accept it. And that is when it's kind of easier to move on with life. So I want to help you if you are in the time of your life where you're dealing with grief. I want to help you get some of those tools so that you can manage it and be able to go through the process a little bit smoother. That does not make it perfect. That does not make it easier or makes the process something that's enjoyable, but it does make it a little bit smoother. Okay? So one of the things that you can do if you're dealing with grief, the first thing we have to do, honestly, is acknowledge my pain. A lot of times we avoid it. We don't want to talk about our emotions. And a lot of people say men don't, and I guess that's what you kind of see at times, but they do. They actually know their emotions, know how to, actually express them, but they may not be expressing them the right way. Sometimes you see some guys who are angry, very angry. They're dealing with something. That's an emotion that they're sharing at least. So I would say acknowledge your pain. Say I'm hurting. Acknowledge what it is that you're hurting about. What is it? Why are you hurting? How is it affecting you? Acknowledge your pain. That's the first step. If someone died, I want you to acknowledge that so-and-so died. If you miscarry, it's hard, but just say, I did miscarry my child. I was 6 months pregnant and I miscarried. It hurts, but you have to acknowledge that pain. That's why I'm hurting. And the feelings that I feel is blah, blah, blah. Whatever that is you're feeling. So the first thing to do is acknowledge your pain. Speak about it. Speak out on it. That's the first thing to do is acknowledge it. We can't fix nothing if we never acknowledge what's going on. So acknowledge the pain. The second thing is to accept that grief can trigger other emotions, right? Grief can trigger shock. It can trigger guilt, fear, anger. And I've seen guilt more than anything. Shock is kind of like the first couple of, the first stage of it, maybe, especially if it's unexpected, I'm shocked, right? But a lot of times we see guilt, especially if something happened and they feel like, if I would have been there, stuff would have been different. I could have saved them. If I just would have, took the keys from them, or if I just would have, sat down and got some rest, this wouldn't have happened. If I. And then that's when we start to feel guilt, right? But guilt does not go back and change what happened. But grief can trigger those feelings. You know, you might not ever experienced grief before, and that's like, why am I mean, never experienced guilt before, but grief is allowing you to start feeling these emotions like, I've never felt this before. What is this? And that's when I ask that you go seek help so that you're able to identify those. I have some of my clients, we use emotion wheels, where sometimes you might not know what you're experiencing, you might not know the word or the label for it, but using those words on emotion wheel helps you to be able to identify what I'm feeling. Talking to someone who's been through it before, just a close friend that is there to just share your pain, they're able to assist you in understanding, this is what I'm dealing with, this is what I'm feeling. So the trigger are things that set you off. Grief can be a trigger to set you off to so much, right? And I've seen lately where grief has been a trigger for PTSD for those who've dealt with grief over and over and over. And I think about myself sometimes where I dealt with 2 deaths in my life, my brother and my mom. And within a 5-year span, that can possibly bring about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, because if I don't address it, that's something that can build up in me, and the next thing that happens, who knows what's going to happen to me. I don't know how I would actually be able to work through that. Am I going to be able to overcome it, right? So grief can actually trigger emotions that you've never felt before, but understand it's okay, all right? It's okay. Nothing is wrong. No way to grieve is actually wrong unless it's not being addressed. Grief not being addressed is always wrong, but we have to address it. Now, I can't tell you the time limit. I can't tell you like how much you can write, not to write. I can't tell you the things that you can do or how much to do it. All I'm saying is that your grief is unique. My grief is different than the next person. How I grieve is not the same as my husband or my best friend. We all grieve differently, and we all grieve in a unique way because we all felt something special about that situation, or it affected us differently. So understanding that this is a unique process, and that's the third step. Understanding that grief is a unique process. It is not one fits all. We don't have that. That's not even a therapy thing. Like, one thing does not fit everybody. We are all different, and we all do things different, and we are affected differently, and it's impacting us differently, and we respond, we behave differently. So understanding is very unique. So what you see the next person go through, that's probably not what you're going to go through. Hey family, I just wanted to take a break and thank our sponsors of the show. Today our sponsors of the show is Marissa and Malcolm Trail. Thank you so much for our bottle of wine that we have with us today. And remember, if you would like to be a sponsor for Wine Therapy, or to just give us a selection of wines you would like us to try on the show, let us know. Our information will be in the show notes, and we hope to hear from you soon. So the fourth step of helping you manage your grief is to seek out support. And that could look like a friend, a therapist, a family member, somebody who's there to help you get through it. Somebody you trust, somebody you feel comfortable with, somebody who's there to hear you continue to talk about it. Because when we go through grief, y'all know we talk about it over and over, and because it's like something that we did not imagine happening, or we didn't want to happen. Somebody we're gonna forever miss, and sometimes we gotta get out those emotions, we gotta get out those feelings, those stories. So have somebody there to help you walk through it, to get through grief, to hold your hand. A lot of times, if you ever been through grief and you've been through and you're in a depression stage, a lot of times we don't have interest in doing things that we used to do. People will have to come and get you out of your house. We have to come and make you take a shower. Yeah, sometimes when you're depressed, you don't want to do your daily grooming. You don't have the energy even to pull yourself out the bed. So you need somebody who's going to be there to help you when you do not have strength to carry on yourself during this time. So whatever that looks like, whoever that is, make sure that you have that person with you, because I don't want you to do it by yourself. When we are in support of ourselves and ourselves only with nobody else, we begin to isolate. And those negative feelings that we get from guilt, shame, whatever that emotion is that we're feeling from the grief, it tends to overcrowd our mind, and it just magnifies, and it takes over what we could possibly be saying about anything else. So having that person that's there to support you is going to be right on time. If somebody's present could mean the world to you. Just them being in the room, they don't have to say nothing, but just them being there is something that you would need to carry on. This could be so helpful and it's impactful during a time of grief. So don't forget that it's important to have someone else to support you. And the fifth step is you supporting yourself emotionally. A lot of times, I've dealt with a lot of clients, even myself, who have lost loved ones, and it's hard to really get over it. It's hard, and sometimes you never get over it. Let's be honest, sometimes you really never get over loss, right? You may be able to manage it, you may be able to kind of overcome some of the hurdles with it, but sometimes it's really hard to get over it, right? Like, you'll never get over them, you'll never forget about them. And when you have those times where you feel like you just are in a stage of denial, or we're in a stage of anger, sometimes I always tell them, write a letter. Maybe get out what you feel to them. They're not here physically, but it's okay for you to verbally say what you need to say to them. Write a letter to them. I wrote a letter to my mom over and over and over. Like, I kept writing letters because I had to get out what I wanted to say. And it was nothing bad. It was just like I miss my mom. Like, I'm used to calling her. As soon as she died, I literally called her phone. She was gone. And the next day, I'm going back to work, trying to go to my regular routine. I call her because I always call when I'm leaving work to give her the tea about work. Yeah, we talk. So I had to write a letter to say, dang, I can't call you. And it's okay to be like vulnerable in your letters, because it's helping you get out those emotions that you feel. It's helping you be able to say what you need to say and not keep it bothering, because you realistically know they're not here. But it's okay to write. It's okay to journal. It's okay to listen to music. These are ways to help you support yourself with your emotions. It's okay to exercise. Exercise lets out feel good endorphins. So exercise, go walking, go sit in nature, read a book. These are things that you can do to support yourself emotionally. So that is one of the steps as well. And the 6th steps is to recognize the difference between depression and grief. And that's something that, I can actually testify and say that I saw firsthand with my mom. It was a difference between grieving my brother and her being depressed. She was actually depressed. Like, she could not get over his death. And I understand that. So remember, know that difference. Know how long it's taking you to get out of the funk. How long are you losing interest? It's all about timing, really. Like, how long? How extreme is it? How severe is your sadness? Is it to where I just want to, a lot of people, and I know that, we hear stories, we see on TV, but a lot of times people that lose loved ones, they get into a state of depression where I want to go with them too. And if you are at that place, it's time for you to seek help and get the help that you need to overcome that. The help that you need. You can go to a psychiatric hospital, whatever that looks like for you, but you got to get some help, because you going with them is not an option. That's not what they would even want, I'm sure. So notice the difference between grief and depression. Grief is short term and depression is long term, but also more severe. It's like magnified emotions, magnified sadness, magnified loss of interest. Everything is greater than what it would look like regularly with grief. So make sure to know the difference. And the last thing I would say is just take care of yourself. Whatever that looks like, take time for yourself. Use self-care when you're dealing with grief. Like, that's when sometimes you really have to say, I ain't gonna go out with y'all tonight, y'all with COVID here. I can't give so much energy to a lot of things. I'm gonna be at home. This is my phone. I'm gonna be at home, okay, so y'all can come over, but I'm not gonna be able to go out. I can't give all my energy to that, because right now I gotta give energy to myself. Going to get a massage. Don't feel selfish about that during the time of grief. If that's what's something that fills your cup, I want you to do that. Take care of yourself. Don't work. One thing I can say I did wrong was when my brother died, I literally went to work. Like, I went to work. I got off the plane when I found out he died in New York. I had to fly back home less than 5 hours, and I went to work. So I went running as soon as I got there, because that's what I know to be. But sometimes you ain't always gonna be strong. You really need somebody else to hold that for you. They say the strong friend needs somebody. Well, I needed somebody, and I think my friends knew that at the time. But I didn't want to acknowledge that. I didn't want to be like, nope, I got it. Nope, and then you have a break. So I don't want you to have a breakdown. I don't want you to have a mental break. I don't want you to go through mental issues that you've never had before, because you're not actually taking time for yourself. That's what I need you to do. I just want you to take time for you and understand that these steps that I'm giving you, this is to help you manage it. And it's not going to take it away. It's not going to take the pain. Your pain is going to be there. But it does make it a little bit smoother. It does lift a little pain. It helps you to kind of understand, this is what I can do. If you haven't made one step in your grief process, this is one of the steps you can make. What I noted today, these are some of the steps you can take to get past it. And sometimes the easiest thing I've seen people do is write letters to the loved one. Write journal about what you're feeling today, why you feel like that. you know, and honor them. If this is a loved one that's no longer here, how can you honor them? You know, for my mom, my brother, I literally honor them every day with the work I do. LB Johnson Therapeutics is named after them. Loretta Billy Johnson Therapeutics. It's about them. I just want to make sure that their legacy live on, and I continue to move forward with helping people not go through the same thing they went through. That's my goal. So think about those things. How can you honor those that's gone? Write about what you feel. Get around people that love you, that care about you in this time of grief, because that's what you need to get through. So I hope that my steps today help you, and that this show, I know it's not an upbeat show, I know that, but it's a necessary show. I just want you to know that this is necessary. It's something that everybody go through, and it looks different on everybody, but I want you to know the difference between depression, grief, and then this is the way that you can manage the grief, okay? I love y'all. Y'all be safe, be good, be careful. Reach out if you need help, if you need advice. Don't be scared to ask for help, okay? It's strength in asking for help. Mr. Superwoman, Superman, like, you ain't always gonna be that strong friend. You're gonna need somebody someday. And if you do, that's okay if it's today. It's okay to ask for help. That's strength. It's okay being vulnerable. That's strength. So I don't want you to go through it alone. Reach out to whoever you need to. You're gonna be okay. And remember, it's okay not to be okay sometimes. Doesn't make anything bad or wrong. It just means we're human. All right? Until next time, let's talk about it. Hey family, I just wanted to thank you so much for tuning in to today's show, and I hope that what we gave you today was very helpful and that you can use these tools to help you manage your grief as well. Now, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, share our posts, follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and remember that sharing is caring. We want everybody to get their help, right? So this is your safe space and we want to share this. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.